Today is November 7th. It's the 312th day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. On the first day of July in 1940, a new suspension bridge opens over the Tacoma Narrows Strait between Tacoma and Kitsap Peninsula in Washington state. 4 months later, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge twists violently in a moderate wind, breaks in half, and collapses into the waters of the Puget Sound below. On this day in 1940, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge is nicknamed Galloping Gertie during construction because even then she has a tendency to sway in the wind, her deck gently rising and falling like a wave. The powers that be in Washington state talk about building a bridge over the Tacoma Narrows for 50 years. They finally start building it in September of 1938. The first designs for the bridge by Washington state engineer Clark Eldridge call for a 25-foot deep truss beneath the roadway of the suspension bridge. Thick and sturdy, but with openings in the structure for wind to pass through. But then a couple of hotshot bridge designers from New York get involved, and they propose a much sleeker-looking bridge. One with the thinner profile made of 8-foot deep plate girders beneath the roadway. One that costs about half the price. So the Washington State Toll Bridge Authority goes with that one. And that decision pretty much seals Galloping Gertie's fate. When the very narrow, very shallow, and very long, mile-long bridge opens in the summer of 1940, it's clear that there's a serious problem with the bridge. The toll is 75 cents per car, 10 cents per pedestrian. Not only do they let people drive across this oscillating danger, they make them pay to do it. And those who do pay the toll and venture across experience what can only be described as traveling on a giant roller coaster. Drivers see the cars ahead of them disappear momentarily as they drop out of view, as if they've dropped into the trough of a wave. But no one knows why the bridge flexes so much. The collapse of the bridge on this day is studied by numerous brainiacs over the years since, starting with Bert Farquharson, who was actually hired by the Washington State Toll Bridge Authority before the bridge even collapses. Bert is hired to study Gertie's gallop and figure out a way to stop it, or at least lessen it. On November 2nd, 1940, he makes two suggestions. Either cut holes in the side of the bridge to allow air to flow through, which the bridge people don't want to do. They don't want to mess up their beautiful, sleek bridge. The other option is to add deflectors to the sides of the bridge to make the bridge more aerodynamic. This, the bridge people are okay with. But just 5 days later, and before the deflectors can be installed, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge collapses on this day in 1940. For many decades, the peer-reviewed scientific consensus is that the bridge is brought down by resonance. It's like when an opera singer sings a note at the resonant frequency of a wine glass and she shatters the glass with her voice. Like the glass in the example, the bridge responds to vortexes created by air flowing under the bridge. Vortexes that leave wakes of low-pressure areas that draw the bridge down and up in externally caused oscillating movement that increases stress on the deck and leads to total failure. That's what the consensus decides, and it goes in the textbooks, taught by all the physics professors for many, many years. But there are some who reject the resonance explanation. In the 1990s and 2000s, more research is done, and a less popular theory that's been around for a while is backed up with concrete evidence. This explanation becomes the generally accepted cause of the bridge collapse: aeroelastic flutter. Aeroelastic flutter is a type of dynamic aeroelasticity. Basically, it's a feedback loop that results in self-oscillation. Now, I'm no egghead, but that's exactly what it looks like happens in the famous film of the bridge collapse, filmed by a camera shop owner named Barney Elliott. Elliott owns a store called The Camera Shop. He and his colleagues have documented the construction and opening of Galloping Gertie, and on this day, when they hear the bridge has been closed due to winds, Elliott and partner Harbin Monroe grab their 16mm cameras and head down to film the action. They capture the final hour of the wild ride that is Galloping Gertie, before her dramatic demise. Elliott begins filming around 10 a.m. on this day, and the footage captures the buildup of tension in the bridge as it undulates up and down like that roller coaster ride. This is nothing new. It's what people have been paying to experience for the past 4 months. But then Elliott's camera captures a torsional vibration mode, the bridge twisting along the center line of the roadway, with the two ends of the bridge twisting in opposite directions on either side of the stationary midpoint of the bridge. Elliott films as the final motorist makes his way across the bridge. It's Leonard Coatsworth, an editor with the Tacoma News-Tribune. Coatsworth's car slides around on the pulsing bridge and gets stuck against the curb. He climbs out and has to crawl 500 yards back to the toll booth. But before he gets there, he remembers the family dog is in the car. Tubby, his daughter's Cocker Spaniel. He tries to go back for Tubby, but the bridge is bouncing so violently and rapidly that he can't get back to his car. 2 others try to make it to the car to rescue Tubby, one of them being engineer Bert Farquharson. Bert makes it to the car, but Tubby is too scared and won't let him pull him out of the car. Bert rushes back to the toll booth, unsuccessful in his rescue bid. The energy of the twist builds, the self-perpetuating motion, each side of the bridge gaining momentum each time it sinks below the center line, and expending that energy as it rises, forcing the opposite side down, that side now gaining even more momentum. And lather, rinse, repeat. At 11 a.m., one of the steel cables snaps, making the cable suspension system uneven, which makes the bridge lopsided, which exacerbates the twisting motion. Gertie galloping out of control until she splits in two and falls into the Tacoma Narrows on this day in 1940, taking 3 cars and Tubby, the Cocker Spaniel, with her. There are 54 days left in the year. On This Day is produced by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. On this day in 1910, the first air cargo flight is made in a Wright Model B airplane. The Wright Brothers Company transports the first air cargo, which consists of 2 bolts of dressed silk, flying them from Dayton, Ohio to Columbus, Ohio for the opening of the Morehouse Martin's department store. The cost of the flight, $5,000. The silk is cut and sold as souvenirs. So if you're still listening, I got nothing. Nope, nothing. Talk to you tomorrow.